Hello, everyone. Today we're going to have a discussion about schizophrenia. It's something that me and Matthew have both experienced. Welcome back to the channel, Matthew, and I really appreciate you talking to me on this subject because there's not a lot of us out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here again.
No problem. Schizophrenia, it's very hard for me to define because it takes on so many different forms. Me as a schizophrenic, back in high school and a little bit before, I started to experience auditory and visual hallucinations. Um, a lot of it was extremely disturbing. Even if you know it's not real, even if you say to yourself it's not real, it's still there, so it can be greatly disturbing to us. Like I've said many times, I would hallucinate anything that I thought of that I was afraid of. It would just manifest right in front of me. So like anytime like I would say, okay, don't think about this, it would manifest physically, it would be there, and maybe a few blinks later it might go away, hopefully. And one of my biggest fears when I think I first saw The Grudge or The Ring when I was same ghostly girl with her hair in her face and like stands up like this and with the white dress and all that. And after I saw that, I actually started to hallucinate her quite a bit. I would always see this ring girl either out of the corner of my eye or I'd turn and she'd be standing there. Her visage would like blink a little bit and then she might be gone. And while I knew it wasn't necessarily real, it made it incredibly difficult for me to not be on edge. Before I ask you about some of your experiences, I will say that my schizophrenia has taken the form of major anxiety, major depressive disorder, and also extreme mood swings, though not quite bipolar, and of course OCD. So there's a bunch of things that can be associated with schizophrenia. Those are just mine. Other people have many other ways their schizophrenia manifests. So, Matthew, I was going to ask you about maybe an experience, an auditory or visual experience that you had, maybe not recently, but just in the past, because I know that we both improved quite a bit. That really bothered you, perhaps one that you've seen a lot. Would you like to share?
Yeah, I don't mind. Like, it started for me like I was in high school because I actually had a really abusive mother when I was really young. And like constantly sometimes I would see her like be very close to me, like saying really bad insults to me, and sometimes I even see her try to like, choke me sometimes. And I can feel the pain of it and such. Even though I always try to act like it was not there, even though it didn't really work that well for me.
So when you say that she kind of appeared before you, like, was it always like you could see her right before you and she had her hands around your throat?
Yes, pretty much. And then she'll say really like rude stuff to me when she did when she started choking me. I remember like how
So
she
like
was.
you could feel the pain then.
Yeah, I could feel it. Like I can't breathe and such.
And what did she say? What are some of the stuff she
She
said?
wished that she never gave birth to me.
Oh. So is that something that she actually said before in the past?
Yes.
Or oh, so that's a whole nother factor. It seems like your schizophrenia kind of incorporated actual memories from
Yeah.
that were traumatizing to you, which which seems to be, as far as my research goes, pretty common. I've never had that, but it makes sense. Would you say that that trauma was one of the major things you didn't want to see, and that's maybe why it manifested because
Y-
you were thinking about it, you didn't want to see it?
Yeah, that's actually that's been most of the case for me. Because
Yeah,
I've been trying like to like get over with it and such and not remember it. I always were trying
yeah,
to.
yeah. And so, as far as other auditory hallucinations, there's some minor ones that I've experienced, and I'm sure you've experienced, where I'll hear my name being called constantly, and I'll be looking around, and I can't see anybody who is actually speaking to me. Or have you experienced that?
Oh, I experience like almost all the time. I do, and it
Yeah.
frustrates me a lot.
I still experience that too, which is really annoying. Like I've improved in all these ways, but that's why I actually don't turn my head or look around unless somebody's like very close and it's very loud because I've kind of trained myself to not look around constantly because that's always happening. So I try to push it out of my brain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so saying your name over and over again. Is there, besides your mother speaking to you and actually being also a visual hallucination, are there other things that you hear that are clear as well?
like our try. I always like hear people arguing in my mind sometimes. I will like usually two people
Hmm.
just constantly yelling at each other and such, which always gives me headaches and everything.
Are they people that you know or some
No,
of
I
them?
don't know any of them. These people.
And see, that's interesting because when I used to hallucinate quite a bit as far as auditory hallucinations, it would be voices I've never heard before, and they'd just be like perhaps saying my last name over and over again, Salazar, 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 and it'd be a bunch of them. And
Hmm.
my hearing would actually try to compensate for me hearing voices that weren't there. So I actually felt and heard this echo like in my head, like it was bouncing around in my head. That was like an echo bouncing off walls, but of course, that wasn't true. It was just my sense of balance trying to compensate. Is that something that you've experienced?
Yeah, the seems actually get a lot. And like sometimes also like I'll like be walking like say like from school, like walking home.
Yeah,
And like there's time I need to watch out for certain things to get me really paranoid or try to
yeah.
such.
So paranoia is what most of us I think have to deal with. Most of us schizophrenics. Has your spiritual path helped you be less paranoid or strengthened you along dealing with your schizophrenia?
Yeah, it actually helped a lot. Like some of the dragons actually helped me with methods to deal with it better.
So so they kind of helped you deal with it better. Is there a particular dragon that did help you mainly with that?
Uh, yeah, he's actually. I always think he's more like a really ancient dragon,
Uh huh.
and he's all about healing and such and creation.
So it means
So
also healing your mental wounds as well.
yes, mm,
So, I know that we talked about alchemy last time. In a way, transforming really where alchemy starts to me is in the mind, trying
yeah,
to perfect your apparatus through which you cast or through which you're dealing with different materials. The idea of lead being turned into gold, the philosopher's stone or whatever is supposed to do that. That's actually an internal process that is a metaphor for basically our heart and that center, um, turning the energy of our bodies into a kind of golden energy state that we experience. But I'm kind of getting into a random topic. Does that sound like anything that you believe as well?
yeah. Actually, I do believe that quite a lot. I do.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time we try to look on the outside based on what somebody said or what a spiritual teacher said, when really it's all about the lessons of transforming our own material within and understanding ourselves.
Like,
Um, so we talked briefly about shamanism and schizophrenia being connected. Um, as far as do you have any shamanic practices that actually go well with your schizophrenia, help you overcome it?
yeah, I do actually. Cause like I have more like native, like, cause I'm from the Navajo tribe, part of my family is, so I
Hmm.
have most of that culture is what I do with my path as well.
Yeah. Like burning sage. We're also talking about putting yourself into a trance-like state to where you can actually see the spiritual world. And we're also talking about, trying to read what's going on around you through divination, which is
Mm.
actually the grasping of those primordial essences that make up the fabric of creation. We're talking about meditation, self-realization. So if we're looking at shamanism, as far as entering a shamanic state,
Mm.
do you think schizophrenia helps with that as far as like making it easier? Because I think it does.
I think it does actually make it easier a lot for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find yourself more sensitive to like the beat of a drum or the taking in of smoke from sage and stuff like that? Do you feel more sensitive to it?
Yeah, like definitely the being of a drum, because actually I play a drum. I have is how I help myself get into that state. I will.
Hmm. What kind of drum is it?
It's actually an African drum. I'm not
African
for
drum.
sure what kind yet, but
Yeah.
so it was a gift.
Yeah. These are actually a lot of people think that this is a mala, but these are actually African beads of adornment. So, but I mean, it's understandable because it looks a lot like a mala. So the shamanic practices throughout many different traditions kind of overlap. But kind of coming back to schizophrenia, um, what do you think? Because I know that I take medication. What do you think the role of? Because we hear this is what drives me crazy. We hear from people that don't have schizophrenia. Oh, you just need to meditate, or oh, you just need to take these vitamins, or realize something within yourself. And people who say that who don't have schizophrenia, it drives me nuts because they don't know what we're dealing with. Have
Yeah.
you experienced that as well?
Oh, I get that like from my family all the time and such. Cause like I don't have any medication at the moment. I don't.
Yeah.
And like I always try to explain, medication yes helps, but it's not gonna cure. It's just gonna help the symptoms somewhat. Like it's not gonna
Yeah.
fully get rid of it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the sad thing is it's genetic, so there's really no getting rid of it for ourselves until genetic sciences kind of really skyrocket in their development. But yeah, I mean, that drives me nuts. And I take medication and it does reduce the symptoms like you were saying. Um, and as far as your background in studies, you're becoming a nurse practitioner, correct?
Yes.
So that's trying to help other schizophrenics, I imagine, right?
Yes. Like well, anyone with mental health problems, I want to help.
Yeah. I think that when we go through what we go through, we're more likely to try to help other people through it because we know how bad it is. And
Yeah.
that's really true with not even just schizophrenics, but just people in general. But schizophrenia is very misunderstood. But do you think that, and the funny thing is when a lot of the insults well, not insults, but judgments we get are from spiritual people that say, oh, you just need to do this spiritual practice or that one and you'll be fine. That's also, it might help the symptoms, but it doesn't cure it altogether. That's why I think a regular spiritual practice is necessary, but it's not an end all be all. When it comes to meditation, do you meditate?
Yeah, I do like every day. I usually do.
Hmm. Would you like to describe one of your meditations that perhaps you would recommend, as far as maybe helping people mentally?
Like mine, like when I have like since like depression also can be a problem since I have with like I usually like go out on earth like and I usually like just like feel the ground itself and then meditate like all that like negative emotions like going into the ground pretty much and then filling back up with more like from the nature like the energy from nature I will. I kind of calm myself down with all the emotions I'm feeling.
Yeah, so yeah, I actually read that in many places that when you have contact with the earth and you meditate directly onto the earth, it can take the amount of stress that we have because it's so vast. And when it feels like we're being overcome by it, we can give it to the earth, we can give it to a god or something like that. So if we're kind of like probing the meditative practice you're talking about, is there anything you visualize or is there any way that you breathe in particular?
I usually like take deep breaths most of the time I will. This is to help like kind of relax my body and such. And I usually visualize like a white light going around me
Mhm.
when I
Yeah,
first start doing it.
so yeah, that makes sense. Um, I mean, I actually fell off my meditation practice, to be honest. I meditate from time to time. A lot of the meditation I do is very much breath focused. You can call it Kriya Yoga, I guess you could say. But it's very breath focused. And it's the meditations that I do that have really helped me when I do meditate is I imagine this bubble within my brain, and then all the thoughts are around it. And then I imagine this bubble expanding as I breathe in every in breath and basically pushing all these thoughts out of my mind, freeing myself from the burden of those thoughts or the burden of just thinking in general, until there's this empty space and this bubble kind of contains the entire space within my brain, and all those negative emotions, all those little tedious bits of life are pushed out, and I can really focus on what I as a person feel like. Um, it's that's the main meditation I do. I've also worked with picturing and visualizing energy going up my spine, rising the Kundalini force, and I've done that in cooperation with Kali Ma, bringing that energy up
Mhm.
and then kind of freeing itself through the top of my head. And that one's more energy. That's not really a calming one. That's very much energy based, and I feel like this power within me. So moving on, are there any herbs that you would recommend to I don't know to calm somebody mentally or to empower themselves? Herbs or
Well,
incense?
like Calno is definitely a good one I use.
Chamomile.
And Dragon's Blood.
Dragon's blood. It's a very energetic incense, but I find that and frankincense calms me down. Sage, when I'm burning a lot of sage and I just fill up this one room with a bunch of sage smoke, it feels like I'm in a womb, and it feels like there's something in me growing that's good and that's bright. And it's really hard to explain, but I feel like I'm in this womb and I'm gestating spiritually to become something more. That might be my Native American side really liking white sage and
Yeah.
being able to cooperate with it because we know that our ancestors, no matter which ancestors you have, if they've worked with a certain plant, they've gotten to know that plant spiritually. They have a relationship. They have a
Yeah.
relationship with the grand elder or elders of a particular plant. Works with trees and animals as well. But it becomes sacred once we truly appreciate the spirit of an herb. Incense, I always buy hem from India, and this is what I also have dragon's blood, but it's actually right underneath this. I got a bunch of frankincense. I actually buy large packages of about 6 of these tubes from
Yeah.
Amazon for I think $15 or something like that. And there's like 30 incense in it. But yeah, this is the dragon's blood that I buy for anybody out there that's interested in the exact brand and what it looks like. And I also buy frankincense. I tend to burn that so much that when I get home, I just got to do that in order to calm myself down and try to release everything from my day so I can really focus on myself. Um, would you like to share another experience that you had quite a bit as a schizophrenic?
Sure. Like, actually, this would be more of a recent one, actually, at work. It happened, like, every day, and I do not understand why. But I would see my, like, whole body starting on fire, or start burning. And I could, like, feel, like, the pain of the fire and feel any heat of it again. And it'd be even hard for me to move, because, like, I'd be, like, frozen, like, I can't move when it happens, so.
Is it so? So when this happens, so you feel like, are you physically still because like it's kind of overwhelming?
Yeah, I can't, like, move at all. Like, my whole body just can't move. I stuck there pretty much when it
Oh,
happens. And I can start feeling it when it comes, so I usually go away from people and such. I will until it goes away.
what do you think causes this?
I'm not actually this one actually I'm not really for sure because this is like not really normal to me. 'Cause I've never been burned, never been in with fire before, so I just don't really know why actually this one happens at least.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time when we feel these flames around us, of course it's partly schizophrenia, but we're also very sensitive to energies just throughout the multiverse.
Yeah,
I find that a lot of my research has shown when you feel this burning around you, when you feel burning, this might sound strange, you're in the stomach, or this is metaphysical, not like literal, but you're in the
yeah,
stomach of some vaster being, and that being is trying to digest kind of who you are, what you are, and basically trying to make you a part of them. I know that when people who work with Tiamat, which neither one of us do, um, I'm not a fan of Tiamat, and you didn't sound like you were either.
I'm not really
Um,
either.
but people who work with Tiamat, they often experience what it feels like to be in her stomach, like it is their womb, their chaotic womb. And there's that feeling of burning. I'm not really sure exactly how to describe it beyond that, but that's something that I've encountered in multiple occult books. Is there a couple last things you'd like to say about schizophrenia before we wrap up the video?
Well, like I would like to see people out there like who don't understand it fully, like at least not judge people for it and like at least actually know like what the definition of it is, because like I always like people tell me, oh, is it split personality or are you dangerous and such, that's not the case.
Yeah, I will say that there's a lot of misconceptions about schizophrenia in the sense that a lot of people assume we're violent, but that's a minority of us. I mean, like most of
Yeah,
us are not violent, and a lot of us you can't even really tell. You don't know what somebody's going through. I mean, when you can tell that somebody's schizophrenic, that's when somebody's like a major schizophrenic. I consider my schizophrenia fairly minor. I mean, I can't sleep without medication. I still have all these problems, but I can pass it as so-called normal.
yeah.
But I do try to educate people about schizophrenia because this is a problem that is very misunderstood. Um, so hey, if any of you out there have any questions, comments, concerns about what we just talked about, feel free to shoot down in the comment section below. I greatly appreciate you joining me today, Matthew.
And thank you for having me on here as well, Hunter.
No problem. No problem. Well, I'm sure we'll do more videos in the future. Anyway, in closing, everyone, schizophrenia is very hard to understand. Do some research. Perhaps talk to a friend if you think that, and if they've told you they're schizophrenic, try to understand it on a personal level, and so everyone, ourselves and everyone around us can be better informed. At any rate, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see all of you on the channel. in the future.